Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 10 of Multiblock Madness. Today I would like to automate the Runic altar from Britannia, something I've done many times before, but every time I like to do it both slightly better and using a different set of tools. So in this pack we don't have access to mechanical user type blocks. The automated user from Cyclic is a bit expensive. We can't make it now. It takes energetic alloy, energetic silver, simple machine chassis, lots of stuff. I guess we could probably make the simple machine chassis, but advanced logic chip, yeah, lots of stuff in here we can't make yet. So we don't get a right clicker type device. Instead we'll have to automate the altar without it. That's fine, it's entirely doable. I would also like to set this up such that it's plug and play with applied energistics. So I want to make it such that in the future when we get applied energistics we can put a interface here. We use this chest as the input chest so that the interface would just push into the input chest, and then that sends its items to the altar to craft, right? And then we can use blocking mode to keep the recipes from getting jammed up with each other. So that's our basic layout. Let's get started. Let's start with the easy part, and that is finishing the craft. When the runic altar is crafting, it emits a redstone signal of 1. When it's done and ready for the living rock to be dropped on it and to be hit with the wand of the forest, it emits a signal of 2. So we detect that. When the redstone signal is at least 2, its only states, by the way, are 0, 1, and 2. So greater than 2 doesn't mean anything. If the redstone signal is exactly 2 in that case, right, this piece of redstone lights up, causes immediately the redstone to get up to the dropper that drops a piece of living rock. Because the living rock takes literal time to drop, we have to delay the activation of the dispenser by at least a little bit. I think 2 ticks is probably enough, but we'll test our timing later. Anyways, that will complete the crafting. Next we have to suck up the finished result. So there's a couple options. I think the vacuum chest is my personal favorite. However, we can't actually make it because we can't make pulsating crystals. We don't have alloy smelter, alloy furnace. We can't make an alloy furnace, can we? No. So I think the next best option is a vacuumlator. The thing also responds to a redstone signal and sucks up items. So we can make this, I believe. There's nothing here we can't do. So yeah, let's use this as our vacuum chest. If memory serves me right, the vacuumlator vacuums on all sides, not just the side with the little vacuumy animation. I could be wrong. I mean, I guess it's easy enough to just turn it around if necessary. Is there a way to... There's no way to preview its range, is there? No. All right, but I'm going to blacklist living rock in it because I don't want it to ever suck up living rock. It'll just suck up whatever gets crafted as a result. All right, so with that, I think we are more or less done with the craft finishing aspect of the altar. Now the craft starting part is a bit trickier. I want to be able to, as I mentioned, use the interface on blocking mode, which means that I only want this chest to only be empty when it's ready to start a new craft. What I mean by that is I want to have a system that with the redstone signal I can insert an item or remove an item from this chest, basically a dummy item to act as a blocker, right? So right now, in fact, let's reverse the modes here. Active without, active with signal. Okay. So as it's set up now, if this piece of item conduit is receiving a redstone signal, it will keep this single item. I'm filtering it to crop sticks, but it can be any dummy item that's never used in an infusion recipe. But it'll keep this item in this chest, and that'll effectively guarantee that applied energistics, when we get around to it, will never insert a new batch of items because it is blocked by this. So in that sense, we can use a redstone signal to determine whether or not we are allowed to insert a new set of items. This prevents the issue where while you're dropping one set of items, a new set of items gets inserted into the chest and continues to get dropped, right? That breaks the altar. So now all we have to do is somehow hook up the item conduits from, or some sort of item movement from this chest to that open crate to drop them, and some way to hook the feedback up to this item conduit to turn off the insertion of new items. This bit took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit to figure it out. Partially because I was being stubborn and trying to do it all with vanilla redstone until the end. I was like, screw it, I'm going to use RF tools to make it a bit more compact. And it's still not very compact. But let me walk you through the logic. So the logic effectively, it's all in this one logic gate. It's saying that if this redstone signal and this redstone signal are on, it will produce output. And let's see where these two signals come from. So this one that's static on is a inverse of whether or not our Runic Ultra is doing anything. That is accepting mana or waiting for a craft to finish, right? Because if this has a redstone signal of 1 or 2, this will be on. So effectively, that's saying the Runic Altar is idle. So if the Runic Altar is idle, and we read the state of these two drawers, if both of these drawers are empty, and the Runic Altar is idle, then if it's empty for 2 seconds in a row, because this is to account for the fact that there's travel time from when the item gets extracted from the drawer to the time when the Runic Altar sees it and it lights up. There's no travel time in the conduit because the conduit's instant, but there is like drop time, and there's some redstone time in the repeaters and stuff. So that's why there's a bit of a delay here. But anyways, if these two drawers, so these 8 inventory slots, are empty for at least 2 seconds, then it fires a redstone pulse for 1 tick, which activates this logic gate, which activates a sequencer, which is effectively just a pulse lengthener. It lengthens the 1 tick output, the 1 tick output, right? Because I guess it's a 2 tick output, but it lengthens the short output to a long output. And then that redstone signal gets looped back to the item conduit here. And this is what unlocks it. So we have another drawer here. This one's locked to the crop sticks, or whatever our locking item is. I'm using crop sticks. And it is set to, on this side again, extract with a signal. So basically without a signal, the item sits in here. When it receives the redstone signal, it'll briefly dump the item into the other buffer, and thus quote unquote unlocking the system. Effectively, the system will be unlocked when there are no crop sticks in here, right? The locking item is removed and the drawers are empty. So yeah, that's essentially the gist of it. The drawer controller here serves so that we can measure whether or not we have items to craft separately from whether or not we have a locking item in there. So anyways, we should see that right now. The system should periodically unlock about once every 2 seconds. It seems my pulse here might not quite be long enough. We can actually probably make this a fair bit longer. We need the pulse to be long enough to actually withdraw the items, withdraw the crop stick from the drawer, right? Because the item conduits do not work fully instantly. Perhaps there's a better thing than item conduits for that, but this is fine. We see that every now and then this drawer unlocks or empties, effectively unlocking the system. But if we were to have items, let's briefly turn that off. If we were to have items get inserted into here, any item that gets put into the drawer controller gets sent to these drawers. Oopsies, I want to leave those in there a second. That causes this to light up, which locks the timer, which locks the crop sticks, the locking item, into this drawer, which prevents a new set of insertions from happening. So that even after we take out the last item here, there's at least a 2-second delay between when that happens and when this system gets unlocked. During those 2 seconds, the idea is that because the items get dropped onto the Runic Altar, then that will cause the Runic Altar to light up, right, and enter at least redstone 1 mode. I'm just using a lever here to force it. But then when that happens, this should be empty, and the system will remain locked because it's locked because this is turned off. So I hope that makes some degree of sense. I would test it more, but that requires something that can insert with locking mode into the drawer controller, and I actually can't do that yet. So we built a system that I actually can't test until I have applied energistics. Whoops, perhaps. But what I can do is when I craft on this altar, I can just put the items on manually by right-clicking them on, and then it'll still, the craft auto finishing half of this will still run, so it'll automatically complete the craft for me when it's done, like when it's done accepting mana. So we'll leave this here. We'll use it for crafting, because the next thing we want to do is start crafting runes here. We have to make runes in order to make the blood orb, right? This rune of spring uses water and fire runes, so we're gonna start crafting some runes on our runic altar. But yeah, the full automation system will effectively have to wait until... First of all, why are you... Oh no, this is stuck on. Never mind. It is working. But yeah, the full automation will have to wait until we have applied energistics to test out. This ended up being not quite as elegant as I had liked. But my goal was to avoid having to use the builder. So in the past, where I've done it before using the RF Tools builder as a swapper, to swap an input chest, like basically a front buffer and a back buffer, if we think in terms of like graphics rendering, so that the buffer being inserted to by Applied Energistics is not the buffer being dropped out of. But this is just a different approach to the same problem. Do I like it more or less? I don't know. It's different, and I like different. Let's get rune crafting. So first we'll do air, and just to test it out, make sure everything's all nice and working, we just put the materials on, it drops it, it finishes it, and it does not suck the rune up. So why was that? Did it light up? Let's try that again. So right now, redstone signal is 1. That would have turned this system off already. It did light up, but oh, I'm just straight up not powering. Wait, no, it's getting powered through this block. Oh, by the time I see. So what's happening is by the time the dispenser is done crafting, I think the vacuumlator is already turned off. Basically, it needs to be powered an additional couple of ticks after the dispenser ticks. Real quick, I'm gonna turn it just to make sure it's not a facing thing. I can find my wrench in here. There's a wrench in here. Does this wrench work? Yeah. Let's try it one more time, like this. Right click to redo last recipe, but it's been too long. Let's take a look at the vacuumlator, see if it turns on in time, and if it turns on for long enough. So it does turn on, but not for long enough. Okay. Wait, did it? No, I sucked it up. So we just have to turn it on for like a couple ticks longer. Did a little bit more digging in how the vacuumulator works. It sucks immediately upon receiving a redstone signal, and it does it like a magical sucking, not like the vacuum chest where it actually attracts the item to it. It just picks up all items in its area. I might have actually put it too close to those. I might have to change a radius on it or something, or move it a bit. But anyways, it does it immediately upon receiving a redstone signal, and then about once every 1 second afterwards. So what I actually need is not a longer signal, but a slightly delayed signal. I don't want to pulse it right as I hit it with the wand. I want to hit it, at least a tick after. So by changing the timing a little bit, this is a somewhat timing sensitive thing, but it should work out. When the craft is done, it gets blasted with mana, drops the thing, finishes it, and gets sucked into here. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and just batch craft for now all the basic runes, the tier 1 runes, including mana, if I can. Nope, we can't make rune of mana. I guess this is technically not a tier 1 rune. But yeah, we'll make the 4 elemental runes, and then we'll make the, spring that we need, and we'll do as many of the tier 2s as we can. When you craft the tier 2 runes, it doesn't consume because any crafting on the runic altar does not consume input runes, which is convenient. Even without full automation, just the auto finishing part makes this process quite quick. All I have to do is wait for it to fill up, and it fills up pretty quick when getting blasted by 3 spreaders. I could even put potency lenses on them if I like, but then just right click it once in between. So anyways, I'll be back once I have 16 of each of these tier 1 runes crafted up. The Rune of Water recipe uses didn't mean to do that, uses fishing rods, and for some reason when it uses fishing rods, the auto refill feature doesn't work. So it completes it, it's right click to put back, right? We've seen it work before, but it just spit out the fishing rod. Not quite sure why, but oh well, no big deal. These are the last of the runes anyways for the tier 1s. Just click the fishing rods on, I guess. I did make the potency lenses, since it does make it a considerable chunk faster. Alright, so anyways, that's tier 1s. We're gonna make, I think, just the tier 2s just in time. Like, well, when I need one, I'm gonna make a batch of them, a large batch, but I'm not gonna make all the types at once. I guess there's only 4 types, aren't there? Rune of... Well, maybe with 4 types they're not so bad. Let's see. That one's trivial. Slime ball, sand, trivial. And this one requires a lot of cakes, which I don't think I have an easy way of making a lot of yet. So maybe we'll make let's just make the spring ones for now. We'll get back to the other ones later. because these don't actually consume the input runes, the tier 2 runes, by and large are actually the cheapest of the runes. Like, in terms of what's actually consumed, right? A tier 2 rune is a piece of wheat and 3 saplings. That's basically nothing, which is, I guess, kind of nice. Next up, let's turn these runes into the tier 2 blood orb. To do so, I want to turn off this auto insert, so I'm actually going to invert this signal and then add a lever here so that basically the low altar count, low altar blood, and the signal here, or the lever, basically, words. So either the lever or low altar blood can turn off the thing. Wait, no, I have it wrong now. Hold on. I want this to... Oh, right, I have to invert this as well. There we go. Now this will work. So now this is not extracting because of low blood count, but if I turn this off, it continues to not extract, even if we fill it up with blood, which is what I wanted. Good. Now that that's filled with blood, I can drop one of these runes in. It takes 5,000 LP, or half the altar, to fill it up. A piece of steak. With our high regen, one steak gets us, quite a few hearts. Alright, so there's one blood orb. Find it to us. Make a second one. We're gonna probably need more than 2 eventually, but 2's a start. Alright, with our blood orbs crafted, what is the next step? Is to make heavy engineering blocks. So these require at least a tier 2 blood orb, which is why we have to make it, plus thaumium and cobalt steel. Okay, we get 3 per craft. That's actually pretty nice. And then we get our choice of empty blueprint. I have a feeling we'll need a lot of these, so let's make a bit more than that. Repeat these items. 9, I guess. We're gonna need more than that. Let's get some steel, copper. I'm pretty short on copper. And gonna have some in here, but I should also be ore doubling copper. I guess it's of sufficient value. Just throw it in here and this thing crushes it. So I've recently discovered that you can actually time the bottle, the crusher. The block that you have to hit is that one tucked in there, but I also over timed the bottled it. But yeah, it does cause it to crush faster, which is nice. At least as long as you have it, as long as you have enough power, it's nice. Anyways, smelt this up. This should be plenty. I'm still turning. What the? Hello? Wait, what was that? You saw that, right? I'm not tripping. Why? What? I'm crazy. Anyways, now that that's out of the way, I'm still making plates the old-fashioned way by hammering them. It's 1 plate per ingot, so it'll probably be some time before I switch off of doing it this way. But like, considering how fast it is, I can just, make an entire stack in a click. But it does use up hammers from time to time. Anyways, enough of me mumbling. Let's turn these plates into components. Are these used for much other than? Yeah, they're used for a bunch of other random things. Huh? Oh, including garden closure. Alright, whatever. Grabs the blood orb, and alright, let's go with... Really wish you would automatically distribute your items. That last one, I need to compress obsidian. Sneak in here. There we go. 33. That should be a fair number of heavy engineering blocks. Then it wants a pump jack, an excavator, a distillation tower for an arc furnace. What in the arc furnace requires distillation? Let's do this side first, because we also need tier 3 runes, and this is probably a bit more of a project. In order to make the tier 3 runes, then we're going to have to get into Thaumcraft's Essentia system. So let's get started by making... I guess we'll make these and then accept the quest reward of like a slurry pump or something. Oh wow, that's a lot of this. But these essentials... smelteries. I guess we'll start with the basic one, but eventually make the Thaumium one. The Essentia smelteries take items and melt them into their Essentia form. So it's similar to throwing items into the Crucible, where you get, like, if I were to throw the planks in, I would get 3 pieces of leaf. But when you do it in the Essentia smeltery, you get it in it's kind of like a fluid. It's not actually a Minecraft fluid, but it behaves kind of like a fluid, and it's a bit easier to work with. You can store it. It doesn't evaporate into the air and turn into flux, and all that bad stuff. So yeah, let's start by crafting the smeltery. 1 alembic. I like to actually have a smeltery. Let's see, the smeltery, 2 slurry pumps, 3 alembics, and 3 filling transfusers. We're probably going to have to actually upgrade our crafting table for that. So let's do that first. Right now our table has access to 271 bis. That's not bad. I think we're in, no, we're not technically in the magical forest, but we're probably close enough that we're gaining some of the effects. This is not a magical forest. Yeah, it is. We're probably gaining some of the effects of being in the magical forest, which is why we see relatively high vis here. However, if we want more, we can make a Workbench Charger, I believe it's called. Yeah, and this thing, I like how we can import recipes into here, and even if this is a wrong crafting table, it does its best, and it pulls the items in for me. But we can make a Workbench Charger, and this will give us access to all the Essentia in a 9 chunk area around it. So basically 3x3 chunks. Air and Ordo. I don't have either of those yet. Air. Ordo. Yeah, and all you have to do is place this on top. So we go from having 60 something available, that number is recharging, but that'll go 2,220. And if I want even more, all I have to do is take this out to here, where we're definitely in a magical forest, and it'll grab from all the surrounding chunks. So if I go even deeper into the magical forest, where all neighboring chunks are magical foresty, we see we have slightly more. Does it really matter? No craft uses more than 500-ish maybe. I suspect somewhere around 500 is the absolute maximum. So I'm going to leave this here in the house where we can use it without getting rained on, and where it's like quieter and closer to our storage and yada yada yada. Even though it does have slightly less this, that is fine. These alchemical constructs that go into a lot of components in Thaumcraft, but like they're part of the smeltery, and I think each tier up of the smeltery requires at least 1. The advanced ones take 2 each. They're used in the slurry pumps and let's see, the transfusers. They're used all over the place basically, and they're really obnoxious to make. So we have to miniaturize it, but there's no capsule. I think you can't even capsule these because I suspect the Essentia parts are tile entities. So I'm just going to batch craft a bunch of them. I should have the materials on me for 8 crafts or 24 of them. They're also using like the Thromatorium, so 24, probably not quite enough to last the entire pack, but it is a fair number. So anyways, ooh, these don't connect. Are they supposed to connect? They are. I hope the facing of the valve doesn't matter. That would be really annoying if it did. Which way does the valve go? Looks like it's facing up in the picture. Alright, moment of truth. Does the facing matter? In the little diagram here, they're all facing, except the top one, I think. They're all facing towards the block in the middle, but getting them to all face towards it, it's kind of obnoxious. So, good, it doesn't matter. That makes my life like 73.2% easier. Anyways, some shrinking time. Turns out counting is not my strong suit. I don't know why I thought I'd get 24. I doubled it, so I'm only gonna have 12. Almost assuredly, that means we're gonna have to make more later, but well. 12 is enough to get us going for now. Anyways, let's take some of these, some chromium. Thankfully, the metals that, like the Thaumcraft metals, have an easy way to make plates. We don't even need to invoke the blacksmith's work table. Nifty. Anyways, let's make the Thaumium smeltery. The next tier one I think is void metal, which I don't think we can make quite yet, right? No, the void metal smeltery does even require an advanced construct. So the void metal one is better than the thorium. Oh wow, it does get quite high. After void metal, it just keeps going. But even the most expensive one here is only 1500, so it's not that bad. Anyways, there's one piece and then a bit more stuff to go. Our starting Essentia smeltery setup then will be a thorium smelter with 3 slurry pumps. Each of those will have a alembic, which I left in storage, attached on top of them, and then one directly on top of the smeltery. All of these will have filling Essentia transfusers on them. So the filling transfuser causes them to empty their contents into jars. That is, they fill the jar. So something like that. Face this way. There we go. So all of these change this a little bit. I want them all on the same. I want them to all have the same range. So if I do this, there we go. All the transfusers are at least on the same plane this way. They will fill any warded jars within 12-ish blocks of them. So we're going to set up a small block of warded jars here for now. In the long term, we will switch our Essentia storage over to digital storage. So we don't need the world's largest Essentia storage block. But once we get to digital storage, Essentia storage is rather cheap. And if we don't need a huge amount of it, we'll just manually choose to smelt stuff down as needed. So for now, a stack of warded jars, each one holds 250 Essentia, I think, is plenty. So to run this, we need some type of fuel. Just plain old coal works, like coal and other furnace fuels, but using aluminium gives you better results. So let's start with coal until we can make aluminium more easily. What is the next quest anyway? It is to make the alchemical construct. Perfect. The alchemical construct makes the process of making aluminium quite easy. Oh, just kidding. I've already made like over a stack of it. So let's grab a stack of this. We're going to have to melt down coal anyways to make aluminium. So let's just grab some and we'll start that process just to see how exactly this works. I believe using aluminium doesn't make this any more efficient, but it does make it faster. So put this in this bottom slot. This is a fuel slot. It can be automatically inserted via the bottom. So if you wanted to automate that, the slurry pump is a fat block apparently, so you can't click past it. But anyways, the things to be melted, I believe, can be inserted any side. So if we just do this, that'll insert the coal to melt. As the coal melts, it turns into this slurry bar, and then that slurry bar over time feeds into the various alembics. The more alembics you have, the faster it is. With 4, it's just about as fast. Maybe it is as fast as the smeltery is. So this way, this bar just about never fills up. But anyways, then they dump them into the warded jars. So now we have plenty of Essentia in warded jars. Next step is to start using it, and we'll use it in the alchemical construct. To make the alchemical, I keep calling it the alchemical construct. To make the, what's this thing actually called? It has a name. I forget. Thromatorium, that's what it is. To make the Thromatorium, place a crucible under 2 alchemical constructs, give it heat. Nidor works or a fire works, and splash Salus on, I believe it's a lower of the 2 constructs, although maybe it doesn't matter, and it becomes a multi-block. Woohoo! Fit for Multiblock Madness. So anyways, you don't have to pipe water into the crucible, I believe, but you do need to be able to pipe Essentia into it. And you can either use pipes or more easily just use Essentia transfusers. So with that, we can now start making, say, aluminium. This uses Ignis, Potentia, Perditio, and Mana Powder. Ignis and Potentia are currently being melted. Let's get some Perditio. I think that just comes from sand off the top of my head. Sand, right? Yep. And then it's probably better sources, but whatever, this will do. And then the Mana Powder, we'll make more Mana Powder, I guess. Very easy to make. Some Ember Grit. Toss it into a pool. It takes about a third of a mana pool I found to make a stack. That's about a third of a mana pool, half a mana pool, give or take. Anyways, we'll have to melt down the sand. And you see here, one piece of Alumentium is basically going to be able to do it all. So we don't have to worry too much about the fuel that goes into here. If we just periodically stock it with Alumentium, it lasts a long time. We do, for now, have to be slightly mindful of the flux this thing releases. So if we look in this chunk, the flux is building up. There's 53, 55, 56 points in it. The Thaumium smeltery is not 100% efficient. I believe once you get above Void Metal, the smelteries do become 100% efficient. So like the Mithrilium smelter it's at least 100% efficient, and then the last two are well over, which means that they don't release any flux, but this one does. So we do have to be mindful. The flux will eventually reach a point when it is high enough to spawn a rift. When that rift spawns, we just have to do something about it. Later on, we'll gain tools to manage the flux that don't involve letting it become a rift. But anyways, that is a trippy color. Why is it weird? All right, whatever. We put the mana powder in here, select what we wanted to make, and then this will, because this is an emptying transfuser, it'll empty the jars, make the thing, and yeet it out the front. So if we put a chest there, instead of being chucked out at the speed of light, it gets stored in here. So now we can do alchemy things without making a mess in the crucible. However, if we're making large batch stuff, I actually still kind of prefer doing it in the crucible. The Essentia smelter here is less than 100% efficient, as I mentioned. So if we put like a piece of coal in here, or like say this piece of dirt, it has 5 points of Terra in it. We don't end up getting all 5 points out. I think this one is like 85, or it's somewhere between 80 and 95% efficient. So we lose some of it and it becomes flux, which is, suboptimal. But for things that are a bit more complicated, that use a lot of types of Essentia, this is great. All right, so anyways, I'll get all of those. I'll claim them later. All right, next step, the Runic Matrix. So I think this is, it's not that bad to make. All right, let's make a Runic Matrix. Oh, these are 64 blank runes. For some reason, I thought that was 64 of those arcane stones. 64 blank runes is a lot of blank runes, and we're going to have to improve our blood altar automation at least a little bit. Every 3 blank slates makes a blank rune. And that's going to drive me a little insane trying to make, was it 80 of them? 64 of them. So 64 times, I need 3 stacks of blank slates. Yeah. I'm thinking we'll use the digital mob agonizer as our blood generation. With access to heavy engineering blocks now, I think we can make these. This requires apprentice or higher tier, right? Let's see. Yeah, apprentice, reinforced slate. This is a tier 2 slate, so we can make it. So we can make the digital mob agonizer. This is Deep Mob Learning's blood generator, and then set up level up a mob profile, whatever, to generate our life essence, so I don't have to sit here pricking my fingers, because to make 3 stacks of blank slates, it's going to involve a tremendous amount of finger pricking. However, we're out of time today, so we'll be back next time to set up our blood altar automation. Lots of magic automation or even semi-automation coming up in the near future, I think, because we're going to have to expand on this, automate the Runic Matrix, yada, yada, yada. But anyways, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to see you in the next one. Take care, and bye-bye!